So what happened last night is America attacked Iran. Again, we're referring to it as a defensive move, missile sites. There were three explosions heard at one point during the night, and then about 40 minutes or so later, another three explosions, and the Iranian air defense systems were activated. So it was a real attack. The Americans did it. And the Iranians did what was referred to as a retaliatory attack for an attack the Americans did on one of their airports on Kuwait. And Kuwait was getting hit with drones and missiles last night. So, and Trump is saying that this ceasefire peace deal seems close. Well, my gosh. What does close mean, Um, it's pretty weird, but, this is what happened last night. It's not exactly breaking news, but it is. It's just several hours ago. And I don't know what's going to come of it. It's not doing good. We're at 8:18 in the morning here in Israel on Thursday. So what are we at, the 28th of the month, May? Yeah, it's getting rather interesting. There's a whole lot of other stuff in the news that is pretty interesting too. Trump bearing down on the Abrahamic Accords is definitely interesting. Um, he's now talking. Uh, he's leaving Pakistan alone because they said they don't want to be in the Abrahamic Accords. But you got to understand that they're the negotiators for Iran. So if they said they're going to do Abrahamic Accords with Israel, Iran would say, you are not negotiating with us. You're conspiring with the enemy, which is what um, Pakistan is doing, the enemy being Iran. Um, so, if you want to consider this a ceasefire and Trump's playing straight with people, go right ahead, but this is not a ceasefire. Um, Trump attacked Iran uh, twice in 3 days. So, that's how could that be a ceasefire? I'm a little confused. I don't know how you can have that. This is the same nonsense Netanyahu would do, make ceasefires with himself, and Gaza wouldn't listen to it. Netanyahu is a heavy influence on Trump. That's not a good thing because you're seeing Trump come up with lunatic behavior like this. Oh yeah, we're close to a deal. And this is coming from Netanyahu, who's a moron and a nasty, mean moron. You know. I'll show you something else he did to the economy in Israel a little later in the broadcast. Um, Not a good thing. He doesn't do anything good for the people of Israel. I don't ever remember him doing anything good for the people of Israel, ever, ever. For the Satan bots that are millionaires, oh yeah, he's their man. And for people that want to, get involved with his political party and, get jobs and contracts and stuff like that, he's good. But he's a curse on Israel, this character. All right. Um, so things are not going well in ceasefire. Oh, so he's saying that if Saudi doesn't play ball with the Abrahamic Accords and the other countries, he didn't specifically isolate Pakistan. But if they're not going to play ball, he's saying, I'm not going to make a deal with Iran. What does that mean? and we'll get into it later, but it means he's going to attack Iran, and Iran's going to pound these countries with missiles, and they're going to hit their oil fields, their oil refineries, probably their water desalination, and their electrical generators in their ports, their piers, and their airports, and devastate them. This is what's going to happen anyway, because I don't think Trump could control those missile cities. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the special forces can take them out and will take them out. Maybe that'll happen. I've covered that. Maybe. But maybe not. And it's still going to take some hours to take out the missile cities. There's like 40 of them at least. So it's not an 8-hour job. It's probably 3 to 5 days, or maybe 10 days. And they're going to be pelting missiles out like crazy. Okay? What Trump is trying to do is set up more stability in the Middle East and have Israel play more of a role of a policeman. See, he could force Israel, and this is probably this bum Netanyahu's idea too, that first comes Abrahamic Accords, then Israel starts doing mutual defense treaties with these countries, and then it becomes a threat to Iran. Then Trump doesn't have to worry about spending a lot of money on bases here and coming over here with aircraft carriers and stuff like that. Israel can take care of it. If Israel made a lot of money, would this moron Netanyahu try to buy an aircraft carrier? That's a really good question. I think it's a little far out to talk about it. I don't think it'll ever happen. Israel would have to make lots and lots of money. These are multi-billion-dollar things. And I don't think it's going to create any more of a deterrent to Israel's regional enemies than what we have now, because that would be if Israel wanted to start flying around, moving it around in Asia and Europe and putting their influence around the world, which I don't think they have any intention of doing. So I don't think it'll get that far, but he'll keep buying. He keeps buying F-35s at $100 million a throw, like it's candy. Will he build new hospitals? No, let the stinking people rot. What do I care? I want my planes. I want to tell those other world leaders when I get on the phone with them and threaten them, I want them to know that they've been threatened and it's real. This is this bum. This is how I envision him thinking. He sooner, cut his arm off than help the poor people in Israel. Really, I think he takes pride in telling his friends, hey, the poor people are suffering here, ha ha ha, and they still vote for me, ha ha ha. That's how I see him, in my opinion. He's that bad. Bennett wanted to build 7 hospitals and put up 400,000 cheap housing units. Netanyahu wants to build 0 hospitals and put up 0 cheap housing units. Bennett's not good, but Netanyahu is so bad that a bad leader can look good compared to Netanyahu. It's terrible. We're going to talk about price fixing in Israel and the latest attack at the poor people in Israel, the working people, what this bum Netanyahu did. I see him as a curse on Israel. I think he's such a horrible individual. All right. Let me jump into the live stream. Believe me, there's a lot of people that agree with me too. They can't stand this guy. They can't stand them. Some guy wrote a thing, The Calm Before the Storm, speaking about the deal with Iran. This is somebody that's out of touch. Uh, there's not a lot of calm. Here in Israel, we're basically waiting for the other shoe to drop. And drop it will. Okay, I'm going to put a quick post up in the live stream. We'll give people a chance to come in. Post will take a few seconds. That's all. Okay, I got this done, and I don't have any typos, and I will pin this up. For whatever little good it does, people have just, I don't know, since the war stopped, people have just stopped giving offerings. They don't like the way I talk about Daughter of Babylon. They don't like the way I talk about some of the churches, and they just stopped giving me offerings. Not everybody at all, but it's really hard, you know. I hope you guys never have to try to go through this. I thought it would be really great, you know, living off the ministry like 13 years later now. It's not so great, you know. It's had its moments of good times, and it used to never be like this. It used to be pretty easy. But now it's really hard. For several years, it's been really hard, and it's a struggle, really, and you know, it's a quandary because you like trying to help the people that support you because they're really nice people, and you have an obligation to them. Yet at the same time, you develop not great feelings towards those that come and listen all the time and never give, just rely on the other ones to give to keep the work going. See, that's in the realm of if they don't work, they don't eat. It's not exactly that, but it's in the realm because they're schluffing it off on other people. And it's directly in, you know, don't muzzle the ox when he treads the grain. I'm the ox. Okay, so what is really going on here with Iran and Trump? Trump was definitely waiting to get more military equipment into the Middle East, and he's still done so. Israel just got the first, I think it's a KC-46 or 45 refueling plane that can refuel more jet fighters than the other ones we had. Now, let's see how many more planes they can refuel. Israel just got a new KC-46 refueling tanker plane. How much does that cost, and how many fighter jets can it refuel? See, this is what Netanyahu loves buying. It is. It's a KC-46A Pegasus, officially named Gideon in Israel. Let me get the price here. This is what that piece of trash Netanyahu did. He bought these things because the regular refueling tankers weren't big enough, but they were. He bought 8 of them. What was the price? 8 of them for $2.4 billion, which includes training, spare parts, maintenance, and flight simulators. The initial batch, Israel signed a specific contract with Boeing for the first 4 planes worth $930 million. So these things cost more than F-35s. Okay. This is a multi-hose gas station plane. I'm making that word up. The F-15s and the 16s refuel from some hose coming out of the back of the plane. It can only do one plane at a time in the back. It pumps the fuel at an amazing rate of 1,200 gallons a minute. Wow, that's really fast. So what I'm gathering is it can refuel one plane that's flying behind the tail of the plane, and it could refuel 2 other planes from hoses coming out of the wings. And that actually pumps the gas a little faster at 1,400 gallons a minute. Well, it really does have benefits, but I don't know if we really needed them. it can refuel 10 to 12 planes. The regular refueling tankers can get about 5. These things can get 10 to 12 planes and still leave enough fuel for themselves to get home. So, yeah, I mean, but you see where he spends the money with 30% of the Israelis in food insecurity. And I'm going to talk to you about what the supermarkets are doing to us in Israel. And I'm going to give you the history of them with their price fixing and how some of them in the past went to jail. Although I don't ever think Netanyahu would put them in jail. He would warn them, and if they made certain concessions, let's be discreet, to Netanyahu individually, it would probably not happen. But if they didn't do that, I don't know what he's doing. But he's a curse on this country, rest assured. Why are the supermarkets all fixing the prices higher since the war started? All of them at the same time with no basis for it. And why is Netanyahu not charging them with price fixing? It actually is illegal in Israel. And they have sent supermarket executives to jail. So that's an interesting thing. But would Netanyahu ever do it? I don't think so. I don't think he's capable, unless they defy him, then he would, but okay, so that's how Netanyahu spends our money. Forget the hospitals, forget cheap housing, forget having decent food, forget having to buy Chinese clothes that have so little fabric you could hold them up and see through them, see the light anyway. No, you don't care about that. They're not. These people are not Satan bots. He doesn't care. See, what he's doing is picking on the 1/3, and the ones that are picking on the 1/3 are the 2/3 that aren't going to make it in Israel. They're going to be cut off. Zechariah 13 verses 8 and 9 has not happened yet. Does not mean 2/3 in the world, 2/3 in the land of Israel will get cut off. Satan bots have a very short lifespan, but they're in grievous deception, and they're not going to know or believe it until it happens. Just like fire and brimstone coming down on Sodom and Gomorrah, when it was coming down and killing them, they believed it. Just like the flood in the days of Noah, when it was raining and they were starting to, get drowned, and they believed it. The Iranians are saying they won't charge any tolls in the Persian Gulf, but they're going to be in control of setting up safe passage. Now, they're the problem why there is no safe passage. Safe passage situation. Okay, so they have brought Oman into it. They said that they and Oman are going to administer the Persian Gulf. Trump said if Oman doesn't play nice, he's going to blow them up. Oman is a little nothing with nothing country that is just outside the Persian Gulf. And that's why they want to use them for tactical measures, okay? And it's a fiefdom. It has a dictator. I don't know what he calls himself: the king, the sultan, the emir, the Caesar. It's all the same garbage, Some of them even call themselves a president. Same garbage. They're not democratically elected presidents. That's not what they are, They're hereditary presidents, Okay, the IRGC said that there is a low possibility of war due to the weakness of the enemy being America. Well, they're not exactly right. If they were right about that, Trump wouldn't have attacked them 2 times in the last 3 days. Trump said that Iran is not going to receive sanction relief in exchange for giving up highly enriched uranium amid ongoing negotiations and the Middle East conflict. So, and the Iranians are consistently saying anything to do with our nuclear and uranium stuff is not on the table. We're not talking about it. So we're getting one set of stories from Iran and another set from Trump, and they don't match. They miss. He then reiterated in stronger English and said, no, no, not at all. Not sanctions relief, no, Trump told PBS News. He added, they're going to give up their highly enriched uranium for They're going to give up their highly enriched uranium not for sanctions relief. No, no, not at all. Okay, so Trump is saying, no, we're not doing any of that. That's nonsense. Trump is beating the nuclear drum because that's what scares the world and gets him closer to being the white in shining armor. Iran closed the airspace. This was yesterday. This is serious. Above their underground missile cities for 35 days as of yesterday. That means they know war is coming. They have intel. Look, they get intel from the other Muslim countries, and they really get, I expect, good intel from China and Russia. What I'm picking up from media that originates in Arab states, which people are bringing into Hebrew, which in Israel, is that Iran has never stopped rebuilding and refortifying their missile cities. They've never stopped rebuilding and getting back into action their mobile missile launchers. They are trying as hard as they can to improve their weapons and get new weapons and make them. Definitely their manufacturing capability was diminished. Have they rejuvenated it and restored it? I don't know. Probably to some extent. So what they did, listen, they looked at what the Americans and Israelis did to their fortified missile cities, built into missiles, into mountains, put underground, very hard for us to get. In one attack, we definitely went after one missile city, and we said it takes 250 to 300 regular bombs to take it out. And they've been fortifying, so that number would be increased. What did the Iranians do? The Iranians are not Arabs. They're Iranians. They don't speak Arabic. They speak Farsi. They're not so stupid. They're actually pretty smart. Okay? What did they do? They looked at the damage that Israel and America caused, and they saw the weak points and the weak spots of their missile cities. Then they go in and fortify them, strengthen them, make them more resilient, more tough, more durable. Got the idea? So it's harder and harder to attack them. There's no such thing as building you know, a site that can't be attacked. I mean, you could put it on the, 75 feet of hardened concrete. And, you still can attack things. Okay. You know, um, there's always a vulnerability. Babylon was laughing at Cyrus. He came and tried to attack them conventionally, and they repelled them, and they went back in. They went out of the gates to fight him outside. Then they laughed at him, and they went back behind the gates. Why? They had a river running under the wall of Babylon into the Babylon, the city, and they probably had it running out in another side. If it didn't run, in other words, I believe it probably ran through. Okay? If it didn't and it just collected, it was moving water, it would be flooding Babylon, so I doubt that. So when they needed water, they just went with buckets and scooped up the water and took it to their house. They didn't have pipes. I don't think maybe the very rich people had some system of water delivery, but probably pretty limited, if anything. The very wealthy might have had a tank somewhere on the roof, and people came and went up on a ladder and poured water in, and they could get a flow. Maybe they had that, maybe, But I don't think it was anything more sophisticated than that. Maybe the palace had something. I don't know. But regular people would have their servants or themselves go down and get a bucket or two. And they bring back, 4 gallons of water, 5 gallons or something like that. And maybe at a bigger place, they might have brought 10 gallons, and they would, whatever they needed to last them for the day. That's what they did, right? So they had coffee, I don't know if they drank coffee. They had water in the morning to drink when they woke up, and they used it for making broth and soup, whatever they were going to do with it, How did they bathe? Well, I don't know. How often they bathed or what? Probably they took a few buckets of water and had somebody pour it on them, and maybe they lathered up with soap and then had them pour another bucket or two on them or something like that. I don't know. But anyway, the essential thing was drinking, using it in food. And they would so they had water, okay? And they stored large, vast amounts of food, okay? All kinds of food. So they could last a long time, maybe 3 years or something, okay? So they could outlast, maybe they had 5 years, I don't know. They had a long, long run. And they figured they would outlast an army attempting to attack them, okay? The army that's outside the gates of the city would need to go running around and hunt for animals and get, fruit and vegetables and things like that. And I don't know why they thought an army wouldn't be able to do this for a long period of time, but it never happened to them, okay? They had walls that were so thick, they used to ride chariots on the walls. So they had probably, minimally 6 foot. Maybe they had 8, 10 foot thick walls, which were a concrete thing, and you're not going to break those walls very easily. You know, regular walls, 12, 18 inches, 10 inches, yeah, they take the rams and they knock it. Walls like this, see, when they stand there and they start running these implements, which would be like a big log tied with ropes, suspended on a device they could wheel, and they could, you know, have 25 guys rock it, and then at the tip it might have had a big rock attached to it or something. You know, boom! You know, they hit the wall. Some of them they put a metal peak on it, a spike, the big heavy ones, so they would chisel away. But while they were doing that, the Babylonians up on the top of the wall would pour hot oil down on them, shoot them with arrows, you know, nice things like that, right? Throw rocks at them. Okay? So they had protections of a sort. They would put animal skins up there to protect them from the hot oil. But you don't need to just use hot oil. You can use hot boiling water too. That'll do a good job also. So I imagine they would shoot arrows and drop rocks on the fur, protecting the people, whatever they had. And you know, it wasn't so easy to just sit there and try to knock the Babylonians' wall down. They were not easily taken advantage of like that. They didn't sit there inside and hide, you know. Um, they were, you know, pretty deadly themselves. But they knew if they went out of the city to attack the enemy out in the open, they would have a very high casualty rate compared to staying behind the walls. The casualty rate would be super duper low. Okay. Um, Now, what a lot of these guys would do to lay siege is they would keep a distance back from the walled city, and they would build a big catapult. Okay. And this is what the Romans did. And they would put a ball made out of, you know, straw and different things like that, uh, maybe with a rock in the center for weight. And they would put tar on it to keep it together, some type of tar. They put it in the catapult to launch it, and then they just, when they were ready to launch it, they lit it on fire. And they didn't have a lot of capability to put the fire out. So they would be hurling fireballs over the wall into the city. Now, that type of thing would cause a lot of casualties in the city, not just the military. They would hit civilians, children, livestock, houses, buildings, uh, stalls that people sold things. It would be devastating and cause a lot of fires. That never happened. Cyrus went outside, tried to engage them in attack. Babylonians came out and met him and then just went inside. They drove him away. Cyrus didn't do good. They drove him away, and then they laughed at him and went back inside and shut the gates. Figuring that Cyrus was going to stay there for a period of time until he got sick and tired of it and then left. And they probably were going to plan raids on him when he was sitting around there when he didn't expect it and things of that nature, or maybe not. And what he did is, I guess the Lord showed him a weakness. He had his men dig 26 tributaries with the river going into Babylon, diverted the river in 26 different directions off to the side, so there was no more water flow going into Babylon. This was done during the night. He had a big army. They all started digging at the same time. And then before morning, they walked in. It was probably muddy, but they walked in the riverbed and they went under the gates of Babylon because they weren't smart enough to put the gates down to the bottom of the river. Had the Babylonians done that, they would have prevailed, but they would have eventually had to go out and meet Cyrus on the battlefield, because once he dried their river up, they didn't know you could dry their river up. Once that dried up, they maybe had several days, and then they had to go fight for water. They needed water to drink and everything, you know. With a river flowing, they didn't go and put big reservoirs of water up, so they missed a vulnerability. And Cyrus took them out easily. The next morning, when they woke up for breakfast and their servants were, they were bathing and they were, getting ready to eat breakfast, and they probably sat outside, and they realized that Cyrus's soldiers had occupied them during the night, and they were conquered without, so to speak, a shot being fired. The reason that I believe it happened this way, rather than the conventional way with fireballs and big rocks being sent in with catapults, killing anybody, and fire arrows and all kinds of other stuff, is that would have killed the Israelites. And they were told by the Lord, go there, stay 70 years, you'll be okay, have children, relax, enjoy, I'm taking care of you. So he didn't want that to happen to him, and he found a way. The Lord knew a way to conquer Babylon without anybody getting killed. And then Cyrus gave them money and letters of safe passage and let them go to Israel. It was really quite a thing. So, okay. The Iranians know that they're closer to war right now than they are with the peace treaty, because Trump's peace treaty is a conditional surrender. And Trump is already threatening to just attack them, which is no. In other words, he's saying he wants them to come out with white flags and their hands up and stuff. See, that's unconditional surrender. That's, we surrender, don't kill us, spare us, and do what you will, okay? And the Iranians are not about to do that. They want to see America surrender. They want to see America go home. They want to drag this out until Trump runs out of his oil reserves, which is really, I've looked at the amount of oil in his reserves he's run down. He's got many months, maybe a couple of years even to go. Many, many months, and Iran doesn't. So they're up and they're in Gaga land with that. But that's what they believe. So they're rebuilding avidly. They're trying to correct the problems, fix the weaknesses, like Israel was attacking the doors where the missile would go out or the people would go in and out. They were damaging those. So they probably fortified that stuff. So they're going to try to make it harder. But what I believe Trump is going to do is use special forces to go to these missile cities and attack their air supply, and they're venting the spent gases out from operating their diesel generators, and that's a vulnerability I do not think they can correct. the reason they shut their airspace over the missile cities is they want to be able to launch their missiles without being afraid of hitting a commercial aircraft. So they have a 35-day no-fly zone near their missile cities. Okay. Also, they expect their missile cities to be getting hit, and they don't want civilian aircraft up there either. Trump is saying, I'm not sure we should make the deal if they don't, meaning the 6 Arab states he wants to join the Abrahamic Accord. He was actually referencing Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Kuwait, and others. So now he's trying to drag Kuwait into this thing. So I think it's probably Kuwait, Qatar, Bahrain's already in, the UAE's already in, Oman, it's hard to believe, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Turkey, and Jordan would join. Jordan's already friendly with Israel, so, you know. I think Trump's idea is, trying to double or triple the economy in Israel so Israel can buy more weapons and could operate in the role of America as some sort of a policeman to protect these oil producing countries. First, an Abrahamic Accord, then a mutual defense treaty. Israel, I don't believe, has a mutual defense treaty with the UAE, but we were helping them defend against Iran with putting Iron Domes there and personnel to operate. And they seem quite grateful about it. I think that Trump, you see, the Arab states, what's really happening is they're pressuring Trump. Trump, if you do this, they're going to rain missiles on our oil fields, our oil refineries, our mansions, our palaces, our airports, our piers, our oil refineries. What are we going to do? What are we going to do? So Trump is doing the ceasefires, and now he's starting to attack Iran slightly, 2 days out of 3, to put more and more pressure on Iran, which isn't going to work. But he's basically telling them, you're the ones that want the ceasefire. Israel thinks it's stupid. I don't see the value in it. So if you're not going to play ball when I tell you to do something, don't think I'm going to play ball when you tell me to do something. What would the reaction be? Would these countries just say, oh, we're in dire straits dealing with Trump, we can't manipulate Trump, let's try it with Iran? Well, I don't think they're going to try that. Going to Iran, no, I don't think they're that dumb. I don't think so. We'll see what happens. Trump's not dumb. He'll say, "Okay, we'll do the Abrahamic Accord, but you better not just lead me on and sign something and never do anything." I haven't seen Trump move any of these oil-rich countries yet, but we'll see. So last night, Kuwait was taking missiles and drones from Iran. They were not happy. What they told their people is follow the safety protocols. Well, what they got there is maybe the government and the big shots have shelters to go to, but the people, I'm rather certain, don't have any bomb shelters in their houses. All they could do is, hope they don't get hit. The IRGC said what they were doing was hitting an American base in Kuwait. Could be true. In retaliation for an American attack on an airport, whenever that happened. That could be the truth. But it shows you that Iran is not punking down from America. They're not sitting there saying, oh, that Trump's a whoosh. Don't worry about him. He threatens and he doesn't do anything. Let's get some more assassins to shoot him in the ear or something. I wholeheartedly expect more attacks from Iran, from I'm sorry, from America to Iran. Israel's not doing anything right now. If Iran attacks Israel, Israel will send dozens and dozens of bombers around the clock to start blowing stuff up, and they know that. And Oman Iran's talking about administering the Straits of Hormuz and the Persian Gulf with the help of Oman. So Oman is back in the camp of Iran. And what Trump says was this: Oman will behave nicely just like everyone else. Otherwise, we'll have to blow them up. They understand that it'll, and then he says they understand that it'll be fine. So that means it means Rubio or Hegseth or somebody, Vance or Trump, told Oman that they were gonna destroy them if they tried this. Now that doesn't mean that they're gonna listen. The Iranians are saying the Strait of Hormuz will be, I think it's the Straits, maybe it's the Strait, Strait. The Strait of Hormuz will be open to everyone. It's international waters. No, oh, this is Trump. No one will control the strait. We will supervise it. No, this is Trump talking. Um, so yeah, I think he could compel Oman into coordinating. Let's take a look at how big Oman is and stuff like that. Let's get some data on them. What is the population? What is the population of Oman? What is the size and might of their military? 5.38 million to five. It's about 5.5 million. So out of their population, 43% are expatriates, predominantly from India, Bangladesh, and Pakistan. So they're there to work. %90 of their population lives in the cities, mostly concentrated around the capital of Muscat. Muscat. Is that Muskrat Love? Like that song in the 70s? Muscat. Muscatel? I don't know. Size and strength of the Oman military. He calls himself a sultan in Oman. Yeah. Israelis call Erdogan a sultan as a joke. He calls himself a president of Turkey. I gotta check something here with the temperature. I got my dog outside. Oh, it's nothing. It's 74 degrees. Nah, it's just warm in the office. It's delightful outside. She's probably having a good time. Um, See, Trump is saying he doesn't know if it's worthwhile. He used these words to sign an agreement with Iran. See, he knows Iran. I'm sure Netanyahu has told him that Iran is 100% going to break whatever treaty you sign with them. They're going to break. Okay, it's just a question of when and how much and all that. Okay, that's it. And I believe Trump believes that. So they want to put Israel in here as the heavy hand to smack Iran if they do so. But if they're not going to do the Abrahamic Accords, see, part of this is going to be to build up Israel militarily. Okay? To build up Israel militarily, you got to have Israel with more money. Okay? Forget feeding the people and giving them better health care and a better place to live. Trump and Netanyahu, would would sooner die than help the poor people. When did they ever help the poor people? Don't just look at me like I'm a piece of garbage. You tell me when they ever looked at the poor people, when they helped them. You think Trump helps the poor people? I don't. The, the last time Biden increased the poor people's Social Security, which is disability also, and I think it's also veterans benefits, those are the poor people typically, they increased it for inflation 2.4%. Should have been like 12.4%. See what Trump does. You'll never see him come up with a realistic figure. Never, ever in a million years. You watch. Him and Elon Musk were going to do the Fort Knox. Remember? Hey, remember that? Yeah. And we're going to do an audit and we're going to tell you what's going on in Fort Knox. Did you ever hear anything? I never did you? Gee, how about that? Do you think they never did it and they never went in to see what was in Fort Knox? I certainly don't. They ain't talking. Where's your stimulus package that was going to come this spring? We're going into summer in a few days. Where's your stimulus package? It ain't there. Just like Trump's promise in his first term to get rid of Obamacare. Did he ever get rid of Obamacare? No. Obamacare hurts the poor people. Stimulus package hurts the poor people. You see what these guys are no good for the regular working people. And Trump saying these countries owe it to the United States. Well, I don't know what they're going to do. Their first idea, being lying scum of the earth, descendants of billionaire dictators, their first is going to be to shine Trump on and drag things out and do precious little and hope Trump doesn't get reelected, and then just ignore the Abrahamic Accords. Let me tell you what's going on in Israel so you can see what a piece of garbage Netanyahu is. He is the biggest problem Israel ever had from a leader. He is worse by far than King Saul, probably tenfold. And I'm sure in my mind, he's proud of that. Evil is good to him. You got to understand these people, okay? They passed the law. Smotrich, our economic minister, was behind it back last year, I don't know, December or something, that, it went into effect January 1, that's right. That if you buy goods from overseas and they ship into Israel, it used to be that you had a $75 exemption. So if your goods were no more than $75, $75.01 was too much. Your goods did not get taxed at 18%. It used to be 17%, but our curse Netanyahu raised it to 18%. Okay. Our curse Netanyahu puts a tax on our automobiles of at least 100%. In some cases, if they're exotic or, more luxury cars, 150%. And our curse taxes us on gasoline $3 a gallon. Yeah, he's a real piece of a curse, isn't he? Okay. Now that VAT tax applies in Israel too. If you go to a store and buy a shoelace or a light bulb, you get hit with it, okay? If you hire an accountant, you didn't buy anything, they put it on that too, which is sick, but Netanyahu's a sick person. Don't think he's not sick. You know, he went into the hospital, Hadassah Hospital, the other day, and then he came out, right? And they said, "What were you doing there?" He said he had his teeth worked on. Listen, when they go to a hospital for, well, maybe there was a clinic there for a dental clinic, it could have been. And then he went back later. I don't think anything that happened there was very serious. If they were going to open up his chest and do something with his pacemaker, uh, he wouldn't have been out of there the same day and going back in. I don't know. Maybe he did get dental work or something like that. But doesn't that sound stupid? A guy like Netanyahu needs dental work. He's not going to go to a Hadassah is a great hospital in Jerusalem, and it's a very large hospital, beautiful place, very hot, very large. And he wouldn't go there for regular dental work if he had a cavity or something. He'd go to some guy's office or something. So I don't know what's up with this. It's just weird. It really is. He'll lie and tell you lies, so we don't know what it is. But it's pretty weird. But I don't think it was anything major because he was just there for a few hours. So I don't know. It could have been a checkup or something. They say he has cancer and won't give any papers up as to how serious it is. So he might have been there for, oh, the doctors, you know, a regular person, they say, come here, we got to talk or something, and you got to go. But then Yahweh says, I don't have time to go. You tell me on the phone now. And the doctor's going to do it, you know. They might have done a test on him earlier, and the test, something went wrong. It didn't work right, and they told him to come back again. Maybe they wanted another MRI or another imaging thing or another scan, whatever. I don't know what they did. You know. All right. So we have price fixing in Israel now with the supermarkets. Our economic minister told us when the war started in 2023, all the supermarkets in Israel were raising their prices, and they were saying it was due to the war. And Smotrich investigated it and said it was not due to the war. They just all of a sudden decided to raise their prices and profiteer. That is illegal. I thought Israel did not have any price fixing laws, but they do. But I think what we're down to now is Netanyahu will not enforce them because somebody that owns 20 or 50 supermarkets is a Satan bot and a buddy of Netanyahu and contributes to his election and stuff like that. And he doesn't see himself as here to force these people to operate lawfully. Why would he be that way? That's not how he is, you know? So he's, you know, letting them get away with it, I believe. Smotrich couldn't do anything about it. So Israel wanted to help the people recover from the first go round with the Iranian war and the COVID and all that. So they said, let's give the people a bigger exemption to import goods without paying the tax. Mind you, they what they do, I'm thinking. So they started and they didn't know what to make it. America used to have an $800 exemption. Trump recently stopped it. Okay, before I remember many years ago, like 30 years ago, 35 years ago, or about 30 years ago, it was $300. So I would think the least Israel would do is $300. Now, places like Amazon specifically on certain select goods at a $50 order or more, they ship it to you for free. They ship it to you for free via the post office. Without the wars, you're at about 7, 8, 10 days. Okay. Generally, they won't deliver it to your house. Okay. You got to pick it up at a post office. Do they have the brains to use those boxes? No, they do everything bad. Netanyahu, our curse, our piece of garbage, privatized the post office, and things got worse with the post office. But did he benefit in his pocket from that? I suspect so, but I can't prove it, and I don't know so. What is my thoughts? Yeah. He's the worst. He's the worst. People got to understand that he's worse than worse. You have no idea how bad it is, okay? He's worse than Obama, or at least as bad. Maybe as bad. Maybe worse, okay? Horrible, horrible, okay? So I think he's worse than Obama. I think he's actually, when I'm playing it in my head, by far worse than Obama. Okay. Imagine that we're what we're living with. Yeah, we're being punished. That's what it says in Jeremiah 30, verse 11. He's not going to leave us wholly unpunished. He's our punishment. But time's up for him. It's going to come to an end shortly. Okay, so they came up with $150 figure. Now, when they were trying to do this, the retailers were screaming bloody murder. Garbage. Listen, let me tell you something. I have shopped for goods using the internet, using Perplexity AI or Claude or one of the AIs, and I have found lots of goods you can buy outside of Israel in different countries. Pay the 18% tax on it and the shipping, okay? And it'll come out at about 50% what the merchants are selling it to you for here in Israel. Now, when I buy one item overseas, I'm not getting a wholesale price, which you could assume is going to be about 40% less. Okay? So the retailer in Israel is buying a dozen or 2 dozen or 3 dozen and getting it at about a 40% discount. So they are taking grievous, gross advantage of us, ripping us off, if you will. Okay? And they all do it so you have unfair situation. That's what our economic minister told us about the supermarket. Nobody owns a bunch of supermarkets unless they're a Satan bot. Now, the guy with the corner grocery store, he may not be a Satan bot. He gets to work at 6 or 7 in the morning and goes home at 9 or 10 at night. It's a hard job, and, that might not appeal to a Satan bot. And they keep their prices probably a little less or the same as the supermarket, and they get better fruit and vegetables sometimes, but not meat, usually just better fruit and vegetables. And they'll have good breads and pastries and stuff like that. And the frozen foods like ice cream and stuff will be the same as what you get in the supermarket. And they'll have the dry goods, the paper towels, the toilet paper, light bulbs, things like that, right? We've got one near us here that's pretty good, really, but limited. It's a small one. You see, he doesn't have a lot of real estate in there. Now, some of these got a big store, and we don't have. I am in a little village. We don't have apartment houses and stuff like that. When you have that, Then you get stores that are pretty good size. Like the guy here, his storefront is maybe 800-900 square feet. He has a storage facility, but that's about maybe 900 square feet. I would say that's probably the size of a store. 1,000 would be tops, I think. Okay, 1,000 square feet. But some of these others got 2,500 square feet, and they've got a lot of stuff in there. And you don't need to go to the big supermarkets. You need to figure out how you're going to get your meat. They sell meat there, but it's usually not the best meat. It's frozen meat, and you know. So people need to deal with the meat, and that could be a problem. But what they will have is they'll have cans of tuna and salmon and sardines. They will have frozen meat. They will have sandwich meat in packages. So if you want to live with that, with the canned tuna, the salmon, the sandwich meat, you can, but some people do. And they save money, but, all right, they have eggs. They'll have fresh eggs. You could have eggs. They'll have good cheese. You could have cheese. So you're not going to be, diminished on protein. People overeat protein. Actually, you might come out better if you're eating tuna and salmon and sardines, even though they're in a can, and you're eating their cheeses, which will be fresh, and you're eating fresh eggs and having some sandwich meat. So maybe you fry your eggs and you cut up pieces of sandwich meat in your eggs or something like that. You're going to be in good shape. And you got your fresh bread. They sell cereals there if you eat cereals. Cereals usually, 98% of cereals is a waste of time eating, but there's a few, well, maybe 90%. There are some that aren't that bad. And their breads are very fresh. They get the breads every day, so you're not buying breads in a loaf. You go. It's a decent operation. I wish we had a good one near here. The one that we have near here has decent prices. He has a lot of fresh bread. He has the sandwich meat. He has lots of yogurt. He has some cheeses, quite a bit. He has milk. Oh, you can get fresh milk there. You can get soda and you can get juice. He's extremely weak on meat. He has a terribly tiny selection. But he does have the salmon and the sardines and the tuna and canned vegetables. And he has some fresh vegetables that are not bad at all. A good amount, and fruit too. So you can do good with him. He has eggs. He has fresh eggs. But my wife decided to be a carnivore, and she just eats meat, and she needs to go to the supermarkets and get the non-kosher meat because it tastes much better. And there is nothing, even in Moses' law. I mean, they never had kosher. It's clean and unclean animal, So she gets the meat, and it doesn't have the salt, and it's not washed out, so it has flavor. I tried carnivore for 2 or 3 weeks, and I thought it was going to kill me. I that's not for me. I don't think it's good. By the way, I've been taking creatine. I'm taking 5 grams a day, a little tiny scoop. It seems to be nice. Energy, muscle. It overall, it's good. Mental clarity, and you might want to look at it. If you're young, you might want to look at it for the physiological, and if you're not so young, you might want to look at it for the physiological and the brain effect. It's not very expensive. I think you got to buy it out. We get it out of Israel. I don't know if they sell it in Israel or not. You can't buy electrolytes in Israel. They tell you it's too dangerous. They don't let you carry electrolytes. This is what you get with a piece of garbage like Netanyahu. Any regulation he could find in Europe, in Asia, in America, in Canada, in Mexico, anywhere, he'll put it in Israel to make the burden on the people harder. I mean it. That's how I see it. Okay? Anything, Oh, let's put this on the people, anything, And he keeps the people from coming to Israel quite effectively. He's reduced the Aliyah figures super drastically. He's the best prime minister we ever had at stopping Jews from coming to Israel. Nobody came close to this guy. And with Satan, that's important. Uh, and I don't know how many people left Israel during the war. We don't know. Let's see if the AI can come up with anything. I don't know. I'm hearing, almost 500,000. Uh, let's find out. Is there a number for how many Israelis moved out of Israel since the war began on October 7th, 2023? It'll search and see if there is a number. I don't think there is a number. I think it's just speculation. The government probably has a pretty good idea, but they may not tell us. Oh, they say there is a number, but it's done by Israeli Bureau of Statistics. And, right away I'm saying I'm not going to trust these figures because I don't think they want us to know the true count. In the original, right after the attack, they're saying 55,000 left within that year. They did not return within the year, within a year or the year. I don't know. I don't think we'll get anything. I'll read the rest of it. Then they're saying it was another 60 to 70,000 that long term left. Um, they don't consider an Israeli to be out unless he's gone 275 out of 365 days out of the country. It's not, it's much bigger than that. No. I don't, I believe it's probably in 500,000 stage, but they're not going to tell you. They may not even know. They don't know how and how do they calculate it? I don't know. People are living in Germany and Cyprus and different places. Look, how many people would leave if they could leave? No country's really going to throw the doors open and help them. If Trump said, I'll give you all green cards and you could come here and live on welfare, like Biden and Obama did with the Muslims, how many people would go to America? Probably 2 million. They'd empty Israel out. Oh, yeah, I would say about 2 million. Dead bare bones, 1 million. A lot of them would never leave. Why? Because they don't speak good English or English. Why does that bother them? Because they're not world travelers. They don't understand. They understand Israel. In Israel, if you don't speak perfect Hebrew like somebody that was born and raised here, they take advantage of you. They do. They're horrible. And that's what I think they do to that's what they think's going to happen to them if they go overseas. You meet people in Israel really that never left Israel. They, 40 years old and they never moved. They never went out of Israel. They never went to Europe. They never went to America. Never went anywhere. That's their right. If that's what they want to do, they could do it. But I think it's about 500,000. Of course, there's been a drop in real estate sales, a drop in real estate prices and stuff. I think that it's there. Some companies are short-handed in work with workers, blue collar typically. So, and the banks, which is not blue collar, they're short-handed. So it makes me think that it's pretty substantial. And how long are they going to stay away? Well, if they've been gone 1.5 years, 2 years, and they're managing to survive overseas, they're probably not going to come back on their own. In the next Exodus, yeah, but on their own, no. Because what happens when you go overseas is you get used to a lifestyle other than what you have in Israel. Israel is hard as nails, okay? It's real hard. And they get used to a soft lifestyle. They don't want to go back to this, okay? The food is better, the housing is better, the cars are better, everything is better. Everything. There's nothing that's worse, okay? You don't have the wars, you don't have the terrorism. They don't want to live there, okay? So they got they recently in February, I think, I don't, maybe it was the end of February, they dropped 150. So it went into effect January 1st, the end of February, I think it was. They dropped it from $150 to $130. These rats, the retailers, which includes the supermarkets and the department stores, they have a retailers association that lobbies the government. In other words, gives them money. That's what a lobbyist does, money, right? Spends money. And they got the government to drop it, which I'm sure Netanyahu loved, from $150 to $130, which I don't think made that much of a difference. But if Smotrich wasn't fighting for the people, they would have dropped it down to $75 or $50 or something like that. See, Amazon's afraid to move here. They have a warehouse. I've seen it near Haifa. I mean, it's huge. I mean, it's not 50,000 square feet. It's hundreds of thousands of square feet. It's huge, huge. And they're not doing much of anything with it. They were going to open up distribution there, but they're not going to. I think they're afraid. The retailers are going to go lobby the government to put them in jail or confiscate them or give them a $50 million fine or something like that. They're afraid of it. So they invested in the building, and I guess they're watching to see if another administration comes in that they could trust. They might come over here and open up a store, which may be good. It may not be. See, these little retailers are what you call in Yiddish ganefs, crooks. They jack the prices up way through the roof. They just gouge the people, get every drop of blood out of the people that they can get. They're not nice and fair. They're bad. Okay? They're terrible. And the supermarket, who processes the most amount of money in any of these countries of retail? It's the supermarkets. They're getting more money in than anybody else. People spend more on food than they do on clothes and stuff like that. Now, somebody that makes $2 million a month, No, he's going to spend more on $5,000 suits and $400,000 cars and stuff like that. But people that don't have that kind of excessive money, what are they doing with their money? I mean, what's going on? Well, they're spending their money mostly on the supermarket, okay? Because they're going there every day or every few days. Now, the big supermarkets would just love to knock the little guys out. But here's what you get. The big supermarkets, their fruit and vegetables are usually the garbage of the crop. We get charitable handout fruits and vegetables, okay? And it's free. And those things are at least 2 times to 3 times better than what the big supermarkets have. The big supermarkets have the small pieces of fruit and vegetables, and it looks bad. That's what they sell. See, there's grades of fruits and vegetables in Israel. There's like cheapy, medium, and luxury. Let's look at it that way. Okay? The charitable handout place buys the luxury grade and they give it away for free. When you go to the supermarket, they're buying the bargain grade so they can make an excessive profit margin and not choke the people with a price for potatoes or peaches. Okay? So instead of giving them a good peach or a pear or a nectarine at a fair price, they give them the cheap grade at a very high price. Garbage personified is what you're dealing with here, right? So, and this is Satan working on Israel, making it never used to be this way years ago, okay? It got this way with Netanyahu. I'm telling you, in the pre-Netanyahu days, it wasn't. What used to happen is a guy would come with a truck with fresh fruits and vegetables, and he, had a bell or a horn or something, and you went out in the street and you bought off the truck. And he would stop, and like you didn't usually have to go more than half a block to find him. So it was easy to get to the guy, right? Now, were his prices good? They were very good. I haven't seen a guy like that in years. I haven't seen an ice cream truck with a guy selling ice cream to kids. I haven't seen one of those in years. They got rid of the crooks with Netanyahu. Got rid of these people. There was competition. The guy with the wagon was giving you good fruit and vegetables. You'd see it. You'd squeeze it. You'd touch. He had good stuff. The little grocery stores on the corner, they have good stuff. Who doesn't have good stuff? The big supermarkets. Now, if you go to Tel Aviv and Jerusalem and you buy from the, let's call it, luxury markets, you're going to get the good stuff at a high price. They've fixed prices. They all raise the prices. You got to prove they did it. They just get together in somebody's house and they talk about what they want to do, and they make sure there's no recordings or the house isn't tapped with the eavesdropping, and that's what they do. And if anything goes bad, they got Netanyahu they could work with, So they dropped it from 150 to 300. It should be 800. How would it help the economy if they made it 800? Instead of buying from these criminally oriented little retailers that just want to gouge you, okay, they would be buying from overseas. So yes, money's going out. But what happens? The people now are going to have at least 50%. Well, you can't buy food overseas. So they're going to get 25, 30% more disposable income. So they'll spend it on different things in Israel. It would help the economy. So what got hurt with the little retailers, the big retailers would adapt and just sell it cheaper because they're buying in quantity and they're just going to have to suck it up and learn. They're not going to be able to keep making 150% margin. They're going to have to go down to 70% or something like that, and they would adjust. It's just terrible what they do in Israel, It's just terrible. It really is. That's what we got with Netanyahu. I don't think we'll get rid of Netanyahu until the two witnesses are in play. I don't think we'll have it. I don't think they're going to vote him out of office. I think he's got his own deep state in. He defies the Supreme Court. Um, you know, he really doesn't listen to anybody that much, and I don't think he's gonna be gotten rid of. I don't think it. I don't think so. I don't think they rig elections in Israel either. I don't think that, but I just think he will persuade the people with the help of Trump that he's a good choice to have, and he's not. He just wrecks the country more and more. In 1985, Israel brought out what's called the NIS, New Israeli Shekel. And this is way before Netanyahu's days. He was maybe in the Knesset as a member of Knesset or something, but nothing serious. Okay, so he might not even have had that status back then. They were getting inflation sometimes 400%, so they had to make another currency because people were going to do their shopping in the grocery store, and they had to have a wad like that of money, or something. So they switched to what was called the NIS, the New Israeli Shekel. And this is in 85. And they pegged the value of the shekel to the dollar. So $1 back then bought 1.5 shekels. Now, when you go back into 1985, Europe was suffering with bad, weak currency, and you were able to buy goods in Europe with the dollar very powerfully. People were going over to Europe and buying stuff, and the dollar was very strong back then. So the shekel was very strong. So if you fast forward from 1985, 7 years, to 1992, the U.S. dollar was now worth $2. Was now buying 2.75 Israeli shekels. In 7 years, it went down that much. Then it went to, before the war, which was October 7th, 23. Before then, the shekel was holding at about 3.7. The dollar would buy about 3.7 shekels. For a brief period of time, a month or 2 or 3, it went up to 4 shekels. Okay, now you've got a phenomenon going on where the value of the shekel has been rising and the value of the dollar has been dropping. And today the rate is $1 buys 2.83 shekels. So the shekel is strong. What happens when a currency in a country is strong? Well, the people of the country tend to do okay, but it's a complicated thing because they don't use real money. No country does. They only use fake make-believe paper, right? So if the currency is strong, so when tourists come here, instead of putting $1 down and getting 3.7 shekels, they're getting approximately 2.8. They sit here and go, oh boy, this is expensive. And when they book the hotel, they're going to say, wow, the price of the hotel is expensive because they're going to be paying in their own currency. So they may not want to come here. Americans don't think that way. Most don't. Some do, most don't. But a lot of Europeans and Asian people will look for a country that has a weak currency, okay, not a strong currency, to take a vacation, all right? Any country with a strong currency they disregard. That'd be pretty common for them. Understand? Okay, so it looks like the currency is going to go down even more against the dollar. So that means Israeli shekel is. So it's easy for people to buy foreign goods. It's easy for Israelis to buy foreign goods. For Israeli to travel to other countries, the shekel goes further. It's harder for Israeli companies to sell products because it becomes more expensive to the people buying them in other countries. So it's, you know, when you make the currency cheap, the people suffer, okay? Because it's hard for them to buy anything. But what happens on the other side of the fence is the goods sell to other countries easily because they're cheap. And tourists come in easily because they get more bang for their buck. The hotels are cheaper, the food is cheaper, and stuff like that, right? But the people don't benefit. So when you're dealing with lousy fake money that all the countries use instead of real gold and silver, you have this phenomenon where basically the poor working class suffer no matter what happens. That's how they have the system rigged. If you were using gold and silver, you would not have inflation or recession to speak of. You'd have people going out of business because something's wrong with their products and stuff, but they become out of date or something. But, you're not going to experience depressions and inflation of any level. I mean, you might have, inflation rate of, 1.5% for some reason, or, you're not going to have anything that's going to be noticeable or significant, okay? And that's what they don't want. Because with the paper money, the morons that become the leaders of the country can run the country. If they had to actually use gold and silver and manage the country with responsibility, they would fall apart. They're not capable. They're incompetent. Okay? Every now and then you'd come across one that might be able to, but it would be rare. They just won't do it. Okay? They don't want to do it. So it leads to lousy situation. What inflation does is it makes it easy for the people to make money. The people, by and large, don't understand what it is to really make money. The way you really make money is you manufacture. And you don't manufacture like a pig. You make 40 to 60% margin. You make something. Or you grow something. Okay? That's real business. Okay? Doing retail, yeah, but that's not real business. It's immature business. Okay? working with natural resources is the epitome. Copper, brass, iron, glass, wood, lumber, These are these are the things the Satan bots have owned for generations. You don't own those yet. Cotton is another one. Linen is another one. Wool, agricultural animals. How many of you have 10,000 head of cattle? How many of you have $1 million bulls to reproduce with? How many of you have prize horses? This kind of thing. This is, this is what the Satan bots do. Okay? And we the people don't even know this stuff exists. It's foreign to them. They've been beaten down for so many generations. They're just happy to go to a factory and get a good job, or go sit in a big building someplace with piped in air where there's a divider that gives them what they consider their office, and they just sit there all day. I mean, this is what people have been driven to, okay? Because they beat us down all these years, okay? Well, they sit around playing golf and going fishing off their yacht and having benefit dinners and, stuff like that. That's why it says in Redeemed Israel that money is going to be gold and silver. Otherwise, you have all this corruption and stuff like that. Also, the banks, you can't charge interest, usury is interest, to your fellow Israelite. You could charge it to the foreigners, but not the Israelites. So the banks, I don't know what's going to happen to them. There won't be banks, like we know it. Okay. See, banks just, you want to borrow money, they just manufacture money, basically getting it from the government. It's all computer entries, so they could do. See, that's why you're not going to really see economic failure in these countries. When was the last time you saw real serious economic failure? The value of the Iranian shekel is in the toilet. I mean, it's so bad. It's a dollar buys about 1.4 million Iranian rial, and they're still operating because they can keep printing. You see, it's rare for these people to fail. They just redo the economy. I'll be back in a minute. Because they're nincompoops running the countries, they don't have the capability. They're not smart enough to run a country. So they just make it up. So, what do I think's going to happen with Iran is there's going to be a war breaking out, and if Trump and Netanyahu have figured out a way to take out the missile cities, it'll be good. They probably have a couple of approaches to it that they think might work. They maybe built a missile city as a test and tried to destroy it. I don't know. America would do things like that. Israel might also. If they can't destroy and stop the missile cities and the mobile missile launchers, what will happen is chaos. Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, UAE, Jordan, and Saudi Arabia are going to take very, very, very bad hits from Iran missiles and drones. Very, very bad. Israel may take some bad hits. The Houthis will most likely shut the Red Sea area and the area at the bottom of Yemen and Saudi Arabia, and that's about 7% of the oil. Let's assume they're lying and it's 10%, and the Persian Gulf about 25%. So you're going to have a third of the world's oil isn't going to be moving. Trump got the American, the WTI oil price down to $90 the other day, and the Brent was 94, the European. So he's managing with his talks of peace, of getting the oil prices on the paper anyway. The actual physical delivery is about 25% higher. $25 higher. Let me look at the live stream for a minute. So you're going to definitely see the war go back. I don't think there's a prayer of any kind of a realistic ceasefire coming around. They're so far apart on a ceasefire. It's not even funny. What do you think of everything about the alien files? They're trying to set up a scam so when Yeshua appears in the clouds, they're going to tell you it was alien technology, like a movie projector or something like that. That's what they're going to. It's a joke. They'll be gone. They ain't going to make it. They're not going to make it, guys. So if you want to support the channel, you can hit the like button and post the chat. I've really given up. So few people want to support the channel, but a lot of want to listen to it. It's just really hard, you know. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, you know, we're out in a lot of places, and Telegram, and you know, so it's just so hard, you know. I look around at the other people, they don't give you the news correctly in Israel. There's some guys that call themselves Israel this or Israel that. These are churchianity people that live in Israel. I don't know how they get here. I don't know how they get papers and documents to stay here. It's really kind of a suspicion of mine how that happens. And they don't call it straight. They twist it to match the church party line, which is no church. None of these people are talking about Zechariah 10, and yet that's what we're experiencing. So if you enjoy getting lied to, go listen to them. You know? The church world likes to send their own people here to Israel so their people could contribute money to them and not to the Messianics, because they don't like Messianics. They don't think Jews are worthy. Okay? that's my intro, and now we're going to go into Malachi 1 and 2, but I'm going to do something real quick. All right, Malachi chapter 1. I haven't read this to you guys in a long time. The burden of the word of the Lord to Israel by Malachi, which is Malach, messenger. So it's kind of a play on words. Verse 2, I have loved you, says the Lord. Let you say, in what way have you loved us? Was not Esau Jacob's brother, says Jehovah, yet Yaakov, or Jacob, I have loved, but Esau I have hated, and laid waste his mountains and his heritage. For the jackals of the wilderness, even though Edom has said, we have been impoverished, but we will return and build the desolate places. Thus says Jehovah of hosts. They may build, but I will throw down. They shall be called the territory of wickedness. And the people against whom the Lord has indignation forever. That's anger. Indignation is anger. Your eyes shall see, and you shall say, Jehovah is magnified beyond the border of Israel. A son honors his father, and a servant his master. If then I am the father, where is my honor? You see? Now we honor him. And if I am a master, where is my reverence? Says Jehovah of hosts. To you priests who despise my name, that's the Kohanim, the priests, the descendants of Aaron. Yet you say, in what way have we despised your name? You offer defiled food on my altar, but say, in what way have we defiled you? By saying, the table of the Lord is contemptible. Well, they put defiled food on the altar. And when you offer the blind as a sacrifice, is it not evil? See, they just use the bad animals. And when you offer the lame and sick, is it not evil? Offer it then to your governor. Would he be pleased with you? Would he accept you favorably? Says the Lord of hosts. You see, the people have a bad problem with offerings when they're not right, when the heart is wrong. Okay? We'll keep going. But now entreat God's favor, that he may be gracious to us. While this is being done by your hands, will he accept you favorably? Says the Lord of hosts. You see, he ain't going to accept them favorably. Give it a chance to develop. Now, this is not to beat you up. This is to help and build you up. Although people, if you talk about adultery and fornication, a lot of them that are doing it will run away. You might help some. You understand? Okay. People have a tendency to run away when you talk about something that convicts them. They don't like it. Who is there even among you who would shut the doors, so that you would not kindle fire on my altar in vain? I have no pleasure in you, says Jehovah of hosts, nor will I accept an offering from your hands. For from the rising of the sun, see, maybe those that don't give offerings are not giving offerings because the Lord doesn't want to accept an offering from them, because then he would have to pay them back. I never thought of that till now. That might be it. I don't know. So that you would not kindle on my altar in vain. I have no pleasure in you, says Jehovah of hosts, nor will I accept an offer from your hands. For from the rising of the sun even to its going down, my name shall be great among the Goyim. In every place incense shall be offered to my name, and a pure offering. For my name shall be great among the nations, the heathen, says Jehovah of hosts. This will all be true. But you profane it in that you say, the table of the Lord is defiled, and its fruit is contemptible. You also say, oh, what a weariness, and you sneer at it, says Jehovah of hosts. And you bring the stolen, the lame, and the sick. So they steal an animal and bring him for an offering, so he gets burned up, and then you can't get after him for having a stolen animal. Thus you bring an offering. Should I accept this from your hand, says the Lord? But cursed be the deceiver who has in his flock a male and takes a vow, but sacrifices to the Lord what is blemished. What does he say happens to them? Cursed. They're cursed. Thus you bring an offering. Should I accept this from your hand, says the Lord? But cursed be the deceiver who in his flock a male takes a vow, but sacrifices to the Lord what is blemished. I am a great king, says Jehovah of hosts, and my name is to be feared among the Goyim. Okay, now let's read the next one, which tends to open it up a lot more. Typo. Okay. All right. Now we're in verse 1 of Malachi 2. And now, O you Kohanim or priests in English, this commandment is for you. I'm a Kohanim. Okay. If you will not hear and if you will not lay into heart to give glory unto my name, don't we praise the Lord at the beginning of every broadcast I do? Saith Jehovah of hosts, I will even send a curse upon you, and I will curse your blessings, yea, I have cursed them already, because you do not lay it to heart. They have blocked out, the rabbis have blocked out the name of Yeshua. They've blotted it out. They don't let of Jehovah and Yeshua, they don't let the people say Jehovah. Instead, they say Hashem, the name. And who the heck they mean, I don't know. Verse 3. Behold, I will corrupt your seed and spread dung upon your faces, even the dung of your solemn feasts, and one shall take you away with it. Well, October 7th, 2023 was a holiday they have. Simchat Torah, like a feast, a holiday. And were the people taken away? Oh, yeah. God will not be mocked. People will not understand that they're being paid back, but they will get paid back. And you shall know that I have sent this commandment unto you, that my covenant might be with Levi, saith Jehovah of hosts. Now he's saying there's a covenant with the Levites. He didn't say he did away with it. My covenant was with him of life and shalom, life and peace. And I gave them to him for the fear wherewith he feared me. Do you fear the Lord? I do. I know many of you do. For the fear wherewith he feared me, and was afraid before my name. Wouldn't use the name badly or anything like that. The law of the truth was in his mouth, and lawlessness was not found in his lips. He walked with me in peace and equity, and did turn many away from lawlessness. Is that what I do? Verse 7. For the priests, the Kohanim's lips, the priest's lips, should keep knowledge, and they should seek the law at his mouth. For he is the Malach of the Lord of hosts. Remember this, please. It says the Kohanim, the priest, is the Malach, the messenger, like Malachi, of Jehovah of hosts. And the people should seek the lips at the mouth of the Kohanim. Now you got this Kohanim that's full of the Holy Spirit, an old man, busted up, okay? But that's what you got, okay? Who's teaching you the true gospel. And you like to listen to it like somebody playing the flute or the guitar or the piano, and then you just go away. And you don't even bring the blind and the sick and the lame to the altar. You don't bring nothing to the altar. Let's keep reading. Not all of you. Not by a long shot is it all of you. But he is the Malach of the Lord of hosts. but you are departed out of the way. You have caused many to stumble at the law. You have corrupted the covenant of Levi, saith Jehovah of hosts. Therefore have I also made you contemptible and base before the people, according as you have not kept my ways, but have been partial in the law, not complete. Now he never got away with the covenant. They're just breaking the covenant, and that's why they're getting punished. Have we not all one Father? Hath not one God created us? Why do we deal treacherously, every man against his brother, by profaning the covenant of our fathers? You're not supposed to muzzle the ox when he treads the grain, yet they do. It says, the people seek the law at the mouth of the Kohanim, not the Goyim. But there's so many people that think you can't trust an Israelite. Well, what about Yeshua? He was an Israelite. And the apostles, they were Israelites. And the prophets, they were Israelites. Judah hath dealt treacherously, and an abomination is committed in Israel and in Jerusalem. For Judah hath profaned the holiness of the Lord which he loved, and hath married the daughter of a strange God. The Lord will cut off. See, he calls her the daughter of a strange God. Okay. That's why he refers in Matthew 13 to the Satan bots as the children of Satan. Jehovah will cut off the man that doeth this, the master and the scholar, out of the tabernacles of Yaakov, and him that offereth an offering unto the Lord of hosts. See, they get cut off. They fall away. And this have you done again, covering the altar of Jehovah with tears, with weeping, with crying out, insomuch that he regardeth not the offering any more, or received it with good will at your hand. Yet you say, wherefore? Because the Lord hath been witness between thee and the wife of thy youth, against whom thou hast dealt treacherously, yet is she thy companion and the wife of thy covenant. See there, this is like, what's a good illustration of this? Hollywood. They marry a young woman, she gets older, they get rid of her and they go out and marry another young woman, and they get rid of her, and they get rid of her, and that's how they keep doing it. And that's the lifestyle of them, and people, oh, they're fans of them anyway. You know, that's what this is talking about, okay? You don't do that, okay? You don't throw the wife out, you know, you don't cheat on her and all that, all right? But did not he make one? Yet had he the residue of the two shall be one flesh. Okay, that's the one. Yet had he the residue of the Spirit, and wherefore one, that he might seek a godly seed. Therefore, take heed to your spirit, and let none deal treacherously against the wife of his youth. They normally got married at a young age, probably teenagers or something. I don't know. But, okay. For Jehovah, the God of Israel, saith that he hateth putting away, for one covereth violence with his garment, saith Jehovah of hosts. Therefore, take heed to your spirit that you deal not treacherously. You have wearied Jehovah with your words, yet you say, wherein have we wearied him? When you say, every one that doeth evil is good in the sight of Jehovah, and he delighteth in them, or where is the God of judgment? Okay, let's go into Malachi 3. Uh, Behold, Malachi 3 verse 1, okay? Now you start seeing some stuff here. Behold, I will send my Malach messenger. That's the name of the book, Malachi. There's Malach in Hebrew. So it's messenger. The messenger he's referring to here is Elijah. And he shall prepare the way before me. That's what Elijah does, right? And Jehovah, no, it's Adonai. It says an Adonai, which is a softer word for Lord, whom you seek shall suddenly come to his temple. That's the glory of God of Israel, Michael. But notice the temple precedes him. He will suddenly come to his temple. So the temple's there first. So there's a temple without the glory of God of Israel for a while, isn't there? Looks that way, right? Even the Malach, or the messenger of the covenant, whom you delight in. Now, that's Elijah. They set a place setting for Elijah for Pesach. They pour him a glass of wine, give him a plate, silverware. They have chairs with his name on it. They leave the door open so he could come in. And they also falsely believe that Elijah attends the circumcision of every Israelite male child. That's not true. I know it's not true. Behold, he doesn't go to the Seder either. I know that's not true. Okay, he doesn't go to all the Seders, like a Santa Claus, or something. It doesn't happen. Okay. He shall come with, saith the Lord of hosts. Okay, he shall come. Now, how do you read that? Let my people go. He shall come. You understand how you read that? Okay? It's not, he shall come. It's a declarative from the Lord. The Lord's declaring to you that he's going to come. The Lord's giving you his word that Elijah's coming. Okay? He's in Israel already, believe me. Now I'm in verse 2. Yeah, Malachi 3, verse 2. But who may abide the day of his coming, and who shall stand when he appeareth? For he is like a refiner's fire, and like the fuller's soap. So how good are the corrupt politicians going to do when he starts working openly? John the Baptist was hid in the wilderness till it was time to unveil him. Okay. I'm not going to take that further. And he shall sit, this is verse 3, as a refiner and purifier of silver, and he shall purify the sons of Levi. Remember this, the purifying, okay? And purge them as gold and silver, that they may offer unto Jehovah an offering in righteousness. And that's going to bring the blessings of the law on Israel. Hip, hip, hooray! Okay. Then shall the offering of Judah and Jerusalem, that's who's here now, Judah and Jerusalem, 10 tribes not here, be pleasant unto Jehovah. So before the great Exodus, before the 10 tribes come here, this is taking place. It's at the doors. I'm telling you. Be pleasant unto the Lord as in the days of old and as in former years. And I will come near to you to judgment. I will be a swift witness against the sorcerers by Satan bots, and against the adulterers, and against the false swearers, and against those that oppress the hireling in his wages, the widow, the fatherless, and that turn aside the stranger from his right, and fear not me, saith Jehovah of hosts. Now that's a descriptor of the 2/3 getting cut off. I'll cover that with you shortly. My lovely iPad jumped around on me. Okay. What went wrong? Oh, I'm back. Okay. Verse 7, even from the days of your fathers, you are gone away from my ordinances and have not kept them. Return unto me, and I will return unto you, saith Jehovah of hosts. But you say, wherein shall we return? Will a man rob God? For you have robbed me. What? But you say, wherein have we robbed you? And then the Lord says, in tithes and offerings. You are cursed with a curse. So those that don't do the offerings are cursed with a curse. That's what it says. I'm reading it. Am I making it up? No. For you are cursed with a curse, for you have robbed me, even this whole nation. See, God set it up that the people are supposed to not muzzle the ox when he treads the grain and do the offerings, and they ignore it. So they get a curse. Then bad things happen to them, and they don't know why. And I'm telling them why, and they reject me. Oh, you just want to buy a new Cadillac like Copeland. Get an airplane. Oh, yeah. This stinking iPad jumps around on me, unfortunately. It's oversensitive or something. I don't know. I got to try to fix it. Oh, gosh. Let me just get out of this and go into... it's hard for me to read it in the... Well, let me go read it there. This is just too stupid. I want to get to Malachi. Come on. Malachi something like that. All right. No, it's, I think we're in verse 10. Bring you all the tithes into the storehouse, that there may be meat in my house, and prove me now herewith, saith Jehovah of hosts, if I will not open you the windows of heaven and pour you out a blessing, that there shall not be room enough to receive it. See, you can't make a doctrine that, okay, there's no temple now, so there's no tithes and offerings, so we don't have to give. Well, then explain, don't muzzle the ox when he treads the grain. Explain not giving offerings. Explain that you're not robbing God. You can't. All you can do is go away. Verse 11, and I will rebuke the devourer for your sakes. That's the bugs that eat the crops, not Satan. And he shall not destroy the fruits of your ground, neither shall your wine cast her fruit before the time in the field, saith Jehovah of hosts. And all nations shall call you blessed, for you shall be delightsome land, saith Jehovah of hosts. Yeah, and all you guys that rob God are going to be here too, right? Dream, 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 dream. Okay, you know, these people, you just don't fear God and you think everything's okay. Your words have been stout against me, saith Jehovah. Yet you say, what have we spoken so much against thee? You have said, it is vain to serve God. It is vain to give offerings. It's a similar thing. And what profit is it that we have kept his ordinance, and that we have walked mournfully before Jehovah of hosts? And now we call the proud happy, yea, the Satan bots, and they that work wickedness are set up, yea, they that tempt God are even delivered. They fail in the long run, though. Then they that feared the Lord spake often one to another, and Jehovah hearkened and heard, and a book, now you guys speak one to another when you can, and a book of remembrance was written, the book of life, before him for them that feared Jehovah. Now, the ones that ignore his commandments, like they like, you know, don't muzzle the ox when he treadeth the grain, and they like muzzling the ox when he treadeth the grain, and they say, oh, that ox just wants to buy a new jet, you know. Yeah, okay, that's the ones that don't fear the Lord. And a book was written before him for them that feared the Lord, and that thought upon his name. And they shall be mine, saith Jehovah of hosts, in that day, that's that day of Zechariah 10, when I make up my jewels, and I will spare them as a man spareth his own son that serveth him. Then shall you return, that's the next great Exodus, and discern, or return to him and the next great Exodus probably, and discern between the righteous, or maybe return to him, but it's kind of the same thing. It really is. And the righteous and the wicked, between him that serveth God and him that serveth him not. And they're going to be justifying why they don't have to obey. And, you know, it's covetousness. You see, they don't know it, but that's what it is. Malachi 4, for behold, the day cometh that shall burn as an oven, and all the proud, the ones that think they got their doctrine right and they don't, and the evil and the Satan bots, and all that do wickedly shall be stubble, the tares, and the day that cometh shall burn them up. Read Zechariah 12, verse 10. It's Zechariah 12 I'm talking about, not 10. Verse 10, and read verse 6. Jehovah of hosts, that it shall leave them neither root nor branch, but unto you, that's the 2/3. But unto you that fear my name, that means you obey the commandments, shall the Son of Righteousness, that's Yeshua, arise with healing in his extremities, and you shall go forth and it means frolic about like the calves in the stall. That's what it really means. You're young again. You have the everlasting life when you see Yeshua in the clouds. Those that fear the Lord, his kids. And you shall tread down the wicked, for they shall be ashes under the soles of your feet. And the day that I do this, saith Jehovah of hosts, in the day that I do this. The enemies surrounding Israel, not in Israel, so you're not going to be, they're going to get burned up too by the 2 witnesses, but the ones in Israel, they get burned up. You tread on them as the ashes under your feet. Those are the 2/3 because they're in Israel. The others did not invade Israel, they're just outside of Israel. A siege, it's called. Remember you the law of Moses, my servant. This is written before Yeshua, which commandeth unto him in Horeb for all Israel with his statutes and judgments. Things change with the law. There'll be a law, there's going to be another temple, but it changes. There's going to be an anointed prince, and many different things, you know. Behold, I will send you Elijah, let's say Elijah in English, the prophet, Eliyahu Navi, Elijah the prophet, before the coming of the great and dreadful day of the Lord. That's the Gog and Magog. Okay, and he shall turn the heart of the fathers to the children, and the heart of the children to their fathers, lest I come and smite the earth with a curse. Okay. So there are people that like to play church, they like to play being a believer, but they don't do anything. They don't bear good fruit. They don't even give offerings, which is a form of good fruit. They don't even do that. They don't do nothing. They got no good fruit. And the tree that doesn't bear good fruit gets cut down and burned, thrown in the fire, and that's where they're headed. They don't necessarily believe that, but that's where they're headed. Let's go to Zechariah 13, 8 and 9. Having a fear of the Lord is a good thing, but many of these people, it's impossible for them to have a fear of the Lord because they really don't believe it. Many are called, but few are chosen, okay? And the ones that are called, they make believers, you know? They don't follow all the scriptures, they just follow what they like, you know? Zechariah 13, verse 8. And it shall come to pass, remember I told you to Remember this? Okay. And it shall come to pass in that in all the land, call Haaretz, all the land of Israel, saith Jehovah, two parts therein shall be cut off and die. That's dead. That's 2/3, two parts. But the third shall be left therein. And I will bring the third part through the fire and will refine him as silver is refined, and will try him as gold is tried. They shall call on my name, and I will hear them and will say, it is my people. And they shall say, Jehovah Adonai. Okay. Remember I told you, remember that with Elijah, purifying them like gold and silver. Okay, that's it. The 1/3 get purified as gold and silver. The other 2/3 that don't listen and don't want it, and they make fun of the temple and all that, they are the ones, when we hit the day of vengeance, that's the day of vengeance. Those that don't fear God go. They get cut off. They're gone. Okay, they hate God. What did Yeshua say? You're either for or against. There's no middle ground. They're not for, they don't fear God, they don't follow his commandments, they're cut off. It's simple, but people just don't want to believe this because they don't want to do what they have to do. They like fornication, they like adultery, they like booze, they like narcotics of various sorts. Now, there are people that have legitimate need for pain and stuff like that. Okay. Go get a root canal from a dentist and see if the pain pills don't feel really good when you're sitting there, and every time your heart beats, you feel it in your tooth, and it's just they don't fear the Lord. That's it. Many are called, few are chosen. Broad and wide is the road to destruction, and many find it. Remember what happened to Ananias and Sapphira? They got killed, but they were basically lying and covetous. Okay, they sold their possessions to meet the needs of others like the other believers, but they held back and they lied. Okay, they're holding back and lying. What the root of that was covetousness. They didn't want to give, and then they wanted to just give as little as they could. If they just would have went to the apostles and said, look, we're not comfortable giving, we don't know, we should do that. And if they went to him and said that we're not comfortable with this and we need to, we don't know, and what would happen? Would they have killed him? No. Would they put him out of the fellowship? Possibly, maybe. Or I think more likely they would have worked with him and counseled him and tried to save him. And if they couldn't, and they kept doing it after some counseling and showing the scriptures and talking, then they would have just had to decide that these people are dangerous to the fellowship and put them out. The covetous that won't give are dangerous to the fellowship, and you got to put them out because they don't fear God, and it's just a matter of time till they're going to hurt somebody. Okay, you have to understand that the covetous, money is the root of all evil. That's what their focal point is, and that's it. What about somebody that's a fornicator or an adulterer? Well, two different things. A fornicator, you've got to tell them to cut it out, and if they do it again, you got to remember to protect the flock. There's a point, you go to them twice, and if they agree, you could let them back in. But if they do it again, then you got to, be thinking seriously about putting them out, you know. Or you could wind up taking them in and they'll commit fornication over and over. You know, I would go to the Lord and ask the Lord if it's time to put them out or work with them or something like that. But you can't keep them around, you know. Uh, they come to you and say, "Oh, I'm sorry, I fell," and this and that. I don't know. You could, I'd go to the Lord and see what to do with them. I mean, it could be definitely having to just put them out right then and there. I don't know. It depends on the cases, guys. Who are they having fornication with? People in the church or out of the church, or what are the terms of it? And do you know if they really had fornication? And adultery is different. That means you're married and you're going outside the marriage. Now, if the woman or the man, it could happen either way. If the spouse wants to forgive the other and continue in the marriage, they can. Um, there's no mandate, okay, to divorce, but you got to be pretty careful, and I would seek counsel from the Lord. What about drunks? Well, they stop being drunks or they're out, Tobacco's not a sin, but it can be. I mean, I wouldn't hold a meeting with people smoking in the meeting because it would be obnoxious to a lot of people. But, you also have to be careful. Somebody will show up at a meeting and they, put 12 or 15 dabs of perfume on themselves, and boy, they're stinking the whole place up in a nauseating way. You got to be careful of that too. Does that mean that person's going to go to hell or something? No. Light years far away from that. No. You got to explain to them that it's too much and they're causing other people to not feel good from it. And, you got to tone it down a lot, and yeah, that's all you do. But you get it. You get it with young people. You get it with old people. You get all kinds of people. You just tone it down, You get people that can show up dressed promiscuously. But we're not going to be wearing these kind of clothes when we hit redemption and restoration of Israel. We'll be dressing the way they did at the time of Yeshua. Of Yeshua, the robes and the tunics and that kind of clothing, and it'll be different. So you're not going to have the promiscuous, clothing. You got to work with people, and the whole dating ritual, I don't think will go on anymore. That'll come to an end. I mean, dating would be the parents bring the two kids together that they're thinking might want to get married, and you put them in the dining room or the living room while the parents are having coffee or tea in the kitchen, and let them talk, and settings like that, or let them go sit in the yard where other people are around and let them talk. You don't want to put them in a position where they start getting tempted to each other to start touching and everything, You don't want that. The whole dating system that is developed in America is not anything we'll be doing in Israel. You're not going to have dating apps, or you're not going to have that. Um, so anyway, that's what I got for you today. So I hope you got something out of this, and God will not be mocked. And the scriptures cannot be ignored. That's mocking God or not fearing God. And, you want to do that, you're going to just deteriorate away and you're not going to make it, okay? Now, there are people that don't know the scriptures. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to spread the real gospel. You don't hear people in the churches talk like me, do you? No. Find one. Go ahead. You won't. I wish there was thousands, but there's not. Okay. All right. I'm going to do a prayer for us. B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, my Heavenly Father Jehovah, I pray for me and my wife and all the true believers in the households to have strength, stamina, and endurance from you and your healing and recuperative power in us and flowing through us, healing us all the time. I pray for us and our animals and pets to be safe and secure and happy, healthy, and whole. I pray for the peace of Jerusalem. I pray we don't have to get more damage from missiles, drones, rockets, bombs, and rebuild more than we already have to. I pray that I make better videos. I pray that we all learn the scriptures and know the scriptures better. I pray that if anyone needs to find a job, they get a job, they get a good job. If anyone needs more clients or customers for their business, they have that too. I pray that we all have adequate money and then some extra. And I pray all this to you, my Heavenly Father, Jehovah, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach. Now spiritual warfare. But, and you should agree with this. If you're a believer, agree with it. It'll make it more potent. Okay. B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, my Heavenly Father Jehovah, for me and my wife and all the true believers in their households and families, I loose off of all of these people and me and my wife, any and all witchcraft and sorcery and spells is all cast off, loosed off of us with no value, no effect, never to return ever. B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach. Okay, you can agree with that. And B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, for me and my wife and all the true believers in their households and families, I command any unclean spirit that's in any of these people to come out of these people immediately and never return unto them again. B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach. Okay. So I hope you got something out of this, and I send my shalom to all those who love Yeshua HaMashiach and Father God Jehovah, and I hope you got something out of this, and I'm out. Thanks.